China's President Xi Jinping is in London this week to inaugurate a four-day state visit intended, if you believe the diplomatic rhetoric, to inaugurate a golden era in bilateral relations. But where does that leave the UK's other fabled special relationship, that with America? Joining me to discuss this is Jamil Anderlini, the FT's Beijing bureau chief, who's over here in London covering the visit. Jamil, I mean, the UK, it's not a cliche to say, has really rolled out the red carpet for this visit. There have been speeches to the House of Parliament, there are going to be state banquets, stays, overnight stays in Buckingham Palace. One imagines, however, that viewed from elsewhere, particularly across the Atlantic, there may be some concern around all of this.
Yeah, if you look at how the US administration has kind of described Britain's approach to its China relations with China, the phrase that you've heard several times now is that Britain's approach is one of constant accommodation. I just returned from a conference in North America where I was meeting with a lot of sinologists, mostly former and current US officials, and it was very interesting. They were scathing. I mean, it was really striking how much anger there was. They really seemed to feel that Britain doesn't know what it's doing and that Britain is betraying the original special relationship with the US.
What do you think the US is particularly worried about?
Firstly, I think the US was not prepared in any way for Britain to join the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the China's answer to the World Bank. So when Britain did that, it was seen as an absolute betrayal by those in the US who were really not expecting it. So the view from Washington is that Britain, by allowing, following in what China's agenda in the world, joining its banks, downplaying human rights issues, not speaking up over territorial problems that China has with many of its neighbors. The US feels that it's that there's a real geopolitical shift happening here, that Britain has decided to hitch its wagon to the new rising hegemon, and that obviously leaves the existing one, the US, in a slightly awkward position.
So do you think this could even endanger the existing state of sort of British-US relations? I mean, could this sort of change the original special relationship?
I think at this stage we're not there yet, but I think definitely over the medium term, if Britain continues along this path, that certainly the Americans won't forget it, that it'll be something when Britain is wanting something from the US in the future, that the US might say, well, ask your new best friend, maybe they will help you.
What do you think, viewing it from, I mean, you obviously are based in Beijing, but what do you think the UK expects to get from this closer relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the motivation behind some of the, for example, downplaying human rights, joining with new global initiatives that China's pushing, I think it makes some sense in that if you're a Chinese citizen, the main thing you know about the UK involves opium wars, it involves gunboat diplomacy, it involves imperialism and colonialism, because that's taught to all school children. They all know at primary school in China, all children will be able to tell you the dates of all the atrocities committed by British forces in the 19th century. Modern Chinese history actually begins in 1840, and that's the date of the first Opium War. So for Britain, there needs to be a sort of overcompensation in a way, because for Britain to lecture China on human rights when it has this awful history that everyone in China learns at school, it seems it's very grating to a Chinese ear.
I mean, just to be clear, the British government have said that they aren't going to, they say officially they are not downplaying the human rights situation and so on, but obviously that's open to...
Well, they've publicly said we're not going to talk about it in public, and that's very different from just a few years ago when Britain insisted on talking about human rights in public. Now their official line is we'll no longer talk about it in public, we'll talk about it privately.
Do you think, from a sort of Chinese perspective, I mean, obviously that we have this bilateral visit now, but are they also looking at other special relationships?
China has one ally, official ally, it's North Korea. China has another very, very special friend, which is Pakistan. But actually the new wonderful special relationship really for China is Russia. So Britain, golden era, I mean, it's all semantics, really, isn't it? You see China go around the world and it says, oh, we're great friends, we're best of friends, the greatest time. They like to do this, and I mean, China's very, very sophisticated and very good at splitting countries, splitting, say, the EU, and getting the EU countries to play themselves off against each other. You see Germany, France, the UK, all sort of scrambling to be best friends, golden friends, super friends, whatever. I mean, it's really, China's very good at that.
Jamil, thank you very much, and thank you for watching. For more comment and analysis from the FT, please go to ft.com/comment. Goodbye.